Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's brief ag forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Let's start with the upper level pattern we're seeing late this afternoon, and that is one that features a couple of cutoff lows. There's one here and another one here. Now, this wave back over California is going to get pulled through the Four Corner States pretty quickly and absorbed back into the jet stream flow, which is here. But the second wave that's in the mid-south is going to take much of the rest of this week just to get from there to Illinois, and it's going to cause flooding over parts of the southeast and just a lot of scattered rain that will eventually even move into parts of the Great Lakes states. We're going to be watching out for that very carefully. Now, when we look back over the last weekend, so this is our last 72 hours of total accumulated precipitation, the places where we're going to be seeing those two cutoff lows go through, for example, the one that's over the mid-south moving north, is just going to continue to add more rain into a place that's already seen it. I'm talking about this area right in through here. But we will be seeing increased chances of rainfall here as that cutoff comes through California and eventually gets pulled into parts of the northwest. So I'll get to that more in just a few seconds. First thing I want to do, though, is that area today is having some trouble with very hot and dry conditions before that cutoff gets to them. And that's why we have red flag warnings out for this area. Still fog advisory out through at least through mid-afternoon here in parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin. We have our flood watches that are still in place down here in parts of Alabama, Florida, and Georgia. And that's because that's where that cutoff is. If I just kind of rock back and forth here toward the end of the day, you can still see the storms and the heavy rain that are over parts of the southeast and the scattered storms that are still occupying much of the eastern Corn Belt here. And even as I take this back to this morning, you can see some of that dense fog that's been showing up right here on the western edge of that cloud shield that, of course, evaporated throughout the day. And the red flag warning was well warranted. You can see actually a large fire right here in Montana. As I kind of go back and forth, you can see the smoke plume. Got a lot of smoke from the fires in California as well. So with that as the setup, here's the near-term forecast from the high-resolution NAM model. This is the 18Z run. As we play through the rest of this evening on Monday, and get out here to early Tuesday morning, big shield of precip coming through parts of Alabama and Georgia tomorrow morning. Scattered storms in the scattered rain in the eastern Corn Belt. We do see also coming through Arizona out of Southern California. That's that other wave that's going to be pushing here throughout the day tomorrow into parts of the Four Corner States. But meanwhile, you'll just see the circulation on this cutoff low continues to be kind of like pesky in this area, and it's just going to slowly meander to the north here with time. So throughout Tuesday evening, getting now into early Wednesday morning, the wave that was just off of California moved much quicker. See where it is now? But we still watch the moisture coming around and around the cutoff that's now right over where the Ohio River and Mississippi come together. And so as we take this out through, well, this is through 1 a.m. on Thursday, this feature is going to stick around for a while the one over California moved through very, very quickly. Now, you've probably all seen the forecast for the next 10 days, which is going to favor a very highly amplified pattern. Deep trough over the west that builds in later this week, and again, the reinforcement of a very large ridge near the Hudson Bay. So the 10-day temperature anomaly forecast is shows a lot of contrast. Very cool in the west compared to normal, with temperatures at times going up into like summer-like weather here in parts of the northern plains extending over toward the Great Lakes. So we're going to have to watch that carefully. I do see some change that is coming, though, and that change is seen right in through here. Now, that low pressure center there, which is just north of the Aleutian Islands, was once a tropical cyclone, a typhoon, that's been pulled into the jet stream pattern. And what I'm going to be watching for it to do is to help reinforce deep troughs that come into the west. And these troughs will eject across the United States from the central and southern plains all the way into the Canadian prairie. We're going to be ejecting numerous shortwave troughs that are going to be producing potentially a very active pattern into next week. But it's going to be into next week that we're discussing. So let's go talk about it. Here's that flow pattern all the way out by day 10. Now, I just want you to notice that by October 14th, this ridge is still here, but these deep troughs keep coming in. And I want you to see how we got there. Ready? So let's go back. You see through Tuesday and Wednesday, while that cutoff that was here already made it all the way up into this part of Canada. Here's that pesky cutoff low that's still spinning over the mid-south. But what you'll notice is that through Thursday and Friday, this is waiting in the wings. Here's the trough that's already across the west. And just watch as each of these just comes firing out here into the plains. Ready? So this is Friday going into Saturday. There's one of the waves. And then from Sunday into Monday, there's another one. And then here's the deep trough on the backside. So that's now Monday going into Tuesday. Look how deep that gets. Very cold weather in the west. And here's the reinforcing trough behind it for next Wednesday into next Thursday. But the question is, do we break down this ridge? I'll get to that answer in just a few moments. Put that all together and you end up getting this map. This is showing the probability of getting at least an inch of rain or an inch of precipitation through the next 10 days. And the reason why I changed my phrasing there is because some of this is, of course, going to be snow. And same thing for the Cascade Mountains here. But very heavy rains in the southeast. Chances for rain still coming around that cutoff low into parts of Illinois, getting into Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin. But this is the area next week I'm going to be watching carefully. The same with the Southern Plains. Okay, let's go ahead and check in with the European model. We're going to use the European model here as our primary source for this forecast. We had some trouble today getting the GFS in. Now we've seen through Wednesday, so let's just go ahead and start Thursday morning here. There's our upper level low still spinning here, okay? And as we go through Thursday into Friday, that just meanders a little bit farther to the north and spreads precipitation around here. But watch what happens by the time we get into Friday night into Saturday morning. The first trough begins to eject there. And we're going to see on Saturday that low pressure center by Saturday evening deepening over the Dakotas. Now, we'll have to just watch all week long to see if we open up a corridor in through here of unstable and moist air to initiate some storms. But this would be on Saturday evening, and the rain is moving out of Wyoming through the Dakotas into Manitoba and Ontario. Meanwhile, the front associated with that cutoff low moves over parts of the East Coast. Now, during that weekend, this is going through Sunday, we're going to watch the next wave eject farther to the south. And this is now Sunday night into Monday morning, but getting into Monday midday and Monday evening. Again, this will be an area I'm going to be watching for the potential for some strong to severe storms, plus a good bit of transport of moisture farther to the north. So now let's keep going. This is Monday evening, getting into Tuesday. And I know we're out there pretty far in an operational run, but look at the deep trough that comes into the west and ejects into the plains. And you're right, those blues in there for midweek next week, they represent snow. And that is by next Thursday expected to pull out into a very large ridge, a very large low pressure system right here into the southern Canadian prairie, leaving a long frontal boundary through the midsection of the country. Now, if we put this all together, this is how the rainfall stacks up. Through the end of this week, this is through Friday, let's go through Friday afternoon. If you're in the plains, not much going on here. There's the first cutoff. Here's the second one still bothering this section of the country. But after we get into Saturday, system number 1. Sunday into Monday, system number 2. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's when the deeper trough is well established and the main wave ejects into the Central Plains. So we've got coming into the mountains a lot of precip, Sierra Nevada, Central and Northern Rockies, Cascades, and some of that's going to come in as snow. When you look out there over the next 10 days, adding up some snow here, I just had to turn these maps back on today. We got it coming in the Cascades, the Central Rockies, and there's the potential for some of this to get out into the plains of Montana. Now, this, calling the first snow of the year is very challenging unless you're in the mountains, okay? Not that it's any easier in the mountains, but still, calling the first snow here in Montana, that's going to be a tricky one. I'll keep a close eye on this to see how this eventually evolves, and we'll talk about it again on Thursday. But we could see, again, parts of Alberta getting into Saskatchewan seeing it as well. All right, probability over the next 10 days of getting an inch of snow is what's shown here. And what I'm trying to illustrate is there's going to be some cold air coming into here. So not only will we see frosty temperatures in this area, but cold enough to support some snow. By day 10, though, remember that ridge was still there and the deep troughs keep sliding through. But the tilt is all wrong. See how the tilt is like this? If we expect a trough to pass through the United States, it's got to have a tilt like that so that it's driving through. This isn't quite doing it. But what do we see is going back to the 14th into the 15th, 16th, and 17th. I'll just stop this out here on the 18th. This might look similar with the deeper trough here, but look, follow the height lines. There's the trough, ridge building in here, and now the height lines make a dip there. Now I know you see the warmer colors, but this is a trough. And that means that possibly after maybe the 16th or 17th, we appear to be breaking down the pattern somewhat. Now, looking out that far, only into week 2, the precipitation pattern is dominated by the big systems that come out early in week 2. You saw them pulling out of the plains in both the northern plains and the southern plains. coming into the northwest. That's why the wetter than average conditions exist here. But I think beyond this, we could see a significant change, and I'm going to talk about that more in just a second. First, let me take you back. Let's look at these temperatures. All right, today was a scorcher, hot and dry in the northern plains. This is Tuesday's highs, getting into Wednesday. So it's going to continue like that until the middle of the week. Now after this, look at the cool down in the west continuing to Thursday and to Friday. Now the midsection of the country, this goes back over to almost, late summer-like weather, while we have much colder air coming into the west. And those overnight lows are going to get down there touching freezing. Then as we go into the weekend, big buildup of warmth, possibly instability as well, and that moves there on Sunday. Now you've already seen this map, or at least half of this map. This is the day 5 through 10 time period. Deep troughs here, big ridge there, and it's going to be after that, day 10 through 15, that I expect some of this to start to break down. We've already seen a cooling of these warmer conditions in this area. It's still warmer than normal, but it's showing a cooling pattern. Now I want to talk about that because a year ago in the month of October, which is what you're looking at here, we rebuilt a huge ridge off the coast and developed a deep trough anchored right here over parts of the Hudson Bay. And that is what brought in a lot of snow right here, pushing up against the Rockies. It's very snowy October last year for Montana. But also, this color is more than a foot of snow. Came out right here into the Central Plains and covered, the Front Range and even at times parts of the Plains and the Northeast. So last year was a cold and snowy October. We won't soon forget that. So what was going on? Well, we had a developing La Nina. Talked about this last week. This is last year's map. This is this year's. That same La Nina is there. The Southern Oscillation Index is at 10. We see plenty of cold water replenishing the cold water that's already here, which means it's going to continue to develop. And what do we know? We know that when there is a La Nina, it tends to favor more ridging here and troughing there, kind of like what we saw last year. Now, this is the correlation between the temperatures in the middle of the Pacific and October. And the question is, are we going to get back there? I think that the second half of the month could do it because the MJO is moving into the Western Pacific, and that favors more ridging along the west and in the Gulf of Alaska and troughing in the east, which means we could just shove this whole pattern much farther to the east once we get past mid-month. So I'm talking like the 17th, 18th, and 19th when this pattern shift could possibly occur. So what do we have to break away from? This is where we have been. And this has been the very formidable downstream ridge that we have not been able to shake. That has to go away before any of this colder air can progress across the United States and stay there. That's the main story. So do the models say that it's going to happen? Well, let's go take a look. This is the next month. This is October wrapped up here, okay? The beginning of the month is what's dominating this and the ridge that's still in place here. But watch this, ready? As I play this forward, let's get out there now looking at the time period of, I'll stop it right there. This is the 16th of October through the 15th of November. You see the pattern, follow the height lines. There's now more troughing there, deeper troughs here. But this is not the same setup that we saw going into October. And the temperatures, well, they still look mild. This just says we may favor over the next 30 days. Again, this is October 16 to November 15. That 30-day time period could favor more days with above normal temperatures on the eastern two-thirds of the United States and Canada. But I will be making a suggestion here. We're going to watch this to see if this fades cooler with time. The precipitation pattern is a bit confusing. Again, that's that same time period, mid-October to mid-November. While I totally buy this, that's been in the forecast for a long time. The wetter than average conditions here I'll call into question. Here's the reason why. If the jet stream does this, there tends to be a lot more upper level convergence there, meaning that it's going to be harder to be wetter than normal. We certainly have some harvest disrupting weather coming in the next 10 plus days. Question is, does it last past mid-month or do we push in a drier, cooler pattern after that? That's what I'm going to be watching. I'll report back to you again on Thursday. Thanks.